Hello, dear students. I hope you are having a good time at home. My name is Dr. Wasim Mushtaq, and I'm your biology teacher. Today, we are going to start with the second chapter in your syllabus, that is transportation of food and minerals in plants. Okay, before we go into the details of this chapter, we should try to understand that we should recognize ourselves that we human beings we have a circulatory system, like we have a circulatory system through which the heart is pumping the blood. Okay, and this blood contains the nutrients and the oxygen, and it is carried by the arteries, veins and capillaries to the different parts of the body. Okay, and so this the nutrients are being supplied to every part of our cell, every cell of our body. Okay, and then the wastes are again collected and brought back to the by the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava, and thereafter it goes again to the lungs where it is oxygenated, and the process goes on and on. I mean to say, we have a circulatory system through which the blood is being pumped, is being transported along with the nutrients to every part of our body, to every cell of our body. Do we have a circulatory system in plants? What about plants? Plants, though they do not have arteries, veins, and capillaries, but they do have a circulatory system which we call as the vascular system. This vascular system consists of xylem and phloem. The vascular system consists of xylem and phloem, through which food and water is being transported to every cell in the plants. All right. So there's a transport system which consists of xylem and phloem in the plants. What is xylem and phloem? Xylem and phloem are simply the constituents of the vascular bundles. Like we have arteries, veins, and capillaries, plants have xylem and phloem. Okay, xylem movement is always upwards. Okay, it always the movement of xylem is always upwards, that is from roots to the stem or the leaves. Okay, and what does the xylem do? Xylem does the transportation of water. Means xylem transports water from the roots to the higher parts of the plant, that is stem, leaves, fruits. Okay, so the xylem transports water from the roots to the shoot tips, we can say. And the xylem consists of two kinds of cells which we call as tracheids and vessels. So remember, xylem consists of two kinds of cells, those are dead cells. The name is tracheids and vessels. Tracheids and vessels make up the xylem, and xylem transports water from the root to the above ground parts of the plant. Okay, then there is the phloem. Phloem consists of cells which we call as the sieve cells. Sieve cells, when completely mature, they lack nucleus. Okay, and they do not perform, they do not function thereafter. Okay, but before maturity, phloem which consists of sieve cells, they are live cells. They are living cells. Unlike the xylem cells, xylem which consists of tracheids and vessels, those are dead cells, but the phloem sieve cells before maturity are living cells. And what does the phloem do? Phloem does the transportation of the food that is being synthesized in the leaves or in the above ground parts of the plant. Okay, and this phloem transports the food to the different parts of the plant, and the movement of the phloem is all directions. Unlike the xylem always moves from transports always from up from the roots to the stem. But the phloem may transport the food in any direction. It depends upon the need of the plant. Like if the plant has a requirement for energy in the roots, phloem will transport towards the roots, and if the requirement of energy is in the leaves, it will transport towards the leaves. So it is bidirectional, we can say. That is, the movement in the phloem is upwards as well as downwards, but in the xylem the movement is always upwards. Okay, next topic is absorption of water and minerals. Like, how do plants absorb water and minerals from the soil? Plants absorb water and minerals from the soil with the help of root hairs. With the help of root hairs. There are numerous, though they are short-lived, but there are numerous root hairs present in the roots which help in the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. And how do they do so? Root hairs absorb water from the soil through the process of osmosis. Through the process of osmosis. What is osmosis? Osmosis is a special term only used for the transport of water. Osmosis cannot be used for ions and minerals. Osmosis is a term only used for the water. During osmosis, there's the movement of water molecules from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, which means that the root hair cells, they have less concentration of water as compared to the surrounding soil. Surrounding soil has, suppose this is a plant here, okay, here are the roots, all right. The water present in the root hair cells is a lower concentration as compared to the surrounding soil. So there is a gradient between the soil and the root hairs, okay, because root hairs, they contain less water concentration and the soil has more water concentration. So there will be the movement of water molecules from higher concentration to the lower concentration, and this is called as osmosis. So the root hairs absorb water from the soil by a process called osmosis. And what is osmosis? Osmosis is a movement of water molecules from higher concentration to the lower concentration. Okay, now absorption of minerals from the soil. That how are minerals being absorbed from the soil? The root hairs absorb minerals from the soil either by diffusion or by active transport. What is diffusion and what is active transport? I will explain. Diffusion is a passive process. Passive process means no ATP is used here, no energy requirement is there. And what is active transport? ATPs are used here. Okay, let me explain. During diffusion, diffusion is the movement of minerals ions from higher concentration to the lower concentration, or we can say along the gradient. Diffusion is just like the osmosis, but osmosis is the term used only for water, okay, and for rest of the molecules, for rest of the minerals and ions, we use the term diffusion. The diffusion is the movement of mineral ions from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. I will explain. Suppose this room, if I will spray perfume in this corner of the room, it will reach the other corners as well, okay. If I spray perfume in this corner of the room, it will reach the other corners of this room as well. Why? This is because of the diffusion. This is how we explain diffusion, the movement of molecules from higher concentration to low or zero concentration. This is called as the diffusion. So some minerals and ions which are at lower concentration in the root hair cells, okay, means the soil has more concentration of ions and the root hairs have low concentration of ions. So these ions will be transported through the process of diffusion, that is from higher concentration to the lower concentration. Okay, then there is active transport. Okay, there may be some minerals like nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, okay, they will be already at higher concentration in the roots. They will be already at a higher concentration in the root hair cells. So now the diffusion cannot take place because they already are at a higher concentration in the root hair cells as compared to the soil. Now, how does the plant absorb those mineral ions against the concentration gradient? This is by the process of active transport, by the mechanism of active transport. Means here the mineral ions are absorbed against their concentration gradient. Means these mineral ions were present already at a higher concentration in the root hair cells, but still they were absorbed. How? Through the active transport. And what happens during active transport? Mineral ions are absorbed against the concentration gradient by the expenditure of energy in the form of ATP. Means ATPs are used here to transport the mineral ions against the concentration gradient. So we can say that diffusion is a downhill movement, but active transport is a uphill movement. Why uphill? Because here the mineral ions are absorbed against the concentration gradient. And why diffusion is a downhill movement? Because the ions are absorbed along their concentration gradient. Okay, next things that we should discuss in this chapter includes ascent of sap. Ascent of sap, it consists of two more things, that is root pressure and the transpiration pull. First, we should know what is ascent of sap. Ascent of sap is the movement of water molecules from the roots towards the leaves or towards the stem. This is known as the ascent of sap. Now there are two forces which are considered to be responsible for the ascent of sap, which are root pressure theory, and number second is the transpiration pull theory. According to the root pressure theory, when water and minerals are absorbed by the root hair cells from the root hair cells, okay, suppose I will draw a transverse section of the root. Transverse section means if I will cut root like this, is a transverse section. If I will cut root like this, it is vertical section. So here I am drawing the transverse section. Suppose these are the root hair cells here, right? These are the root hair cells. The plant absorb, the root hair cells absorb water and minerals, okay, and thereafter it reaches the here epidermis, then it will pass to the endodermis, and finally the xylem and phloem is here. Okay, so what happens during root pressure? The water and mineral ions absorbed by the root hair cells, okay, when they reach the xylem cells, okay, when they reach the xylem cells, here you can see when this xylem cells, or when the root cortex cells, when the root cortex cells are filled with the mineral ions, mineral ions, it decreases the water potential of the endodermal cells. As a result, more water is being pulled by the root hair cells towards the cortex and ultimately towards the xylem. So this pulling of the water molecules because of the water potential gradient, okay, by the root hair cells up to the xylem, this is called as the root pressure. And number second is the transpiration pull. Transpiration pull is the when there's a loss of water molecules from the leaves, in the form of water vapors, and those water vapors escape the leaves. It kind of creates a suction pressure, just like the straw in your soft drinks, okay, where when we are sipping, when we are pulling it, okay, the soft drink, whether it is any kind of soft drink, okay, it is being pulled by our sipping. Similarly, when these water vapors, when they evaporate from the surface of the leaves, it kind of creates a suction pressure, and this suction pressure is responsible for pulling the water molecules pulling the water from the xylem towards the above ground parts of the plant, that is stem and leaves, sorry. Okay, this is known as the transpiration pull theory. All right, next thing that we are going to discuss is the transpiration and the translocation. Transpiration, I already told you, transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapors from the surface of the leaves, is called as the transpiration. Transpiration, it occurs through the minute pores present on the surface of the leaves, which we call as the stomata. More stomata are present on the lower surface of the leaves as compared to the upper surface. So transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapors, from the surface of leaves. Okay, this is known as the transpiration. There are also loss of water, but in the form of water droplets, okay, in the form of water droplets along the margins of leaves. Transpiration occurs on the surface of the leaves, but there's a loss of water in the form of water droplets along the margins of leaves on hot and humid nights. This is known as the guttation. So the guttation water is different as compared to the transpiration water. Transpiration water escapes the plant in the form of water vapors, but guttation water occurs in the form of water droplets. All right. And now what are the benefits of transpiration? Now first is the cooling effect. When the water molecules escape from the surface of leaves during transpiration, it creates a cooling effect in the plant, which brings down the temperature of the plant and protects the plant from being overheated. And number second, transpiration is also responsible for bringing about the rain, and transpiration is also responsible for dragging the minerals and ions towards the leaves from the xylem, through the xylem, sorry. And the last topic, but not the least in this chapter, is the translocation. Translocation is the transport of food. The transport of food synthesized by the leaves during the process of photosynthesis. We know the leaves perform the photosynthesis and they make food in the form of glucose, okay, and that glucose is being either converted into sucrose or being transported to other parts of the plant where the need is there, where the energy requirement is there, and this is known as a translocation. And translocation occurs through the phloem. Phloem, I already told you, it consists of seed cells, and the movement in the phloem is multidirectional. It depends on the energy requirement of the plant. So this is all about today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching me.